From Wall Street to the White House, this is the Larry Kudlow Show.
Welcome back, folks. We're going to talk a little politics. We have Tammy Bruce, Fox News contributor, and her latest book, Fear Itself, Exposing the Left's Mind-Killing Agenda. And we have Roger Stone, longtime political consultant and host of WABC Radio's The Roger Stone Show, Sundays, 3 to 6 p.m. on many of these very same. We don't have either. Okay, I'll just vamp until we get hold of them. Sorry, folks, but I'll just continue this discussion of Israel because I think, we have Joe Concha. Well, how about that? Joe?
I was waiting in the bullpen in case something happened technically to the other folks.
You're supposed to be on vacation or something.
No, I was supposed to. Funny little story, real quick for you. It's not funny. It's not funny at all, actually. I should say it's horrible. I was supposed to do a speech near the Asheville, North Carolina area.
Yeah.
At a conference, and unfortunately, the storm has been so horrible down there they had to cancel the conference. Now this is the second time I've been scheduled to do a speech, and a hurricane hits, and then the speech gets postponed. So I am bad karma, apparently.
Wow. Well, are you guys trying to still get Roger Stone also? Folks, engineers, you still trying to get Roger Stone? All right, they're cooking. But it's a pleasure to have Joe Concha. Anytime. All right, we have Tammy Bruce. We got Tammy Bruce, too. This is live radio, anything goes. Wow. I want to come back to two stories that I mentioned in my openings in the first half hour. One is the immigration story. The other is the Israeli story. Start with Joe on the immigration story. You look at these numbers that came out from ICE. Incredible numbers. But one of the things that's incredible about the incredible numbers is that the ICE and the administration and the White House, Joe, has had these numbers for quite some time. And they finally released them in a letter to Tony Gonzalez, the Republican House member, and the Texas border. Now, I just wonder, I want to speculate that the White House is furious that these horrible numbers were finally put out and made public. But I think somebody in ICE decided to finally stick it to the administration, particularly as Kamala's going down to visit the border for the first time in 3 years. And, of course, she's not lifted a single finger. I mean, I'll read them again. 425,000 convicted criminals, 62,000 convicted of assault, 56,000 drug convictions, 13,000 homicide convictions, 16,000 sexual assault convictions. The numbers have gone from, 2021 there were 3.7 million. These are counted. God knows how many there really are. 22 there were 5 million, and 23 there were over 7 million. I mean, these are staggering numbers that nobody had. They were released yesterday. Joe, do you think somebody in ICE decided to finally just stick it to the administration, Biden-Harris administration, on the anniversary of her going down to the border?
That was my exact thought, because what Freud once said, there are no coincidences, right? and this happens the day she goes there, and this obviously then overrides the at least the Fox News cycle. I look at other publications like the New York Times, CNN.com, Washington Post. They're not even touching this story. It's one of the biggest stories of the decade, in my opinion, because when you're talking about 426,000 convicted criminals that came here illegally in this country, and then Biden-Harris, this administration, caught them and then released them back into the general public. Let's talk about what 425,000 people, how much is that exactly? Because we always need context around these things. The populations of the cities of Tampa, New Orleans, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Minneapolis are all smaller than 425,000. These are NFL cities, big populations, and we have more convicted criminals here illegally than those 5 major U.S. cities alone. And Kamala Harris, every time she does this, it makes me want to, my hair hurts, so we'll put it that way. She always points to this the bipartisan border bill. I'll sign it when I get in office. That thing was toothless, right? I didn't see anything about remain in Mexico. It still allowed millions of people to come into the country. It adds border agents, but that's just to process people. So Trump should always hit her on that every time. The reason why I was against that bill because it doesn't actually do the job that needs to be done. So this is the bottom line. Kamala Harris has called Donald Trump's border wall a vanity project, called it medieval, called it racist, and now she's trying to run on it. She goes down to Arizona, and she wasn't exactly warmly received. She's down 5 points there. If you want to believe that, I think it's even higher probably. And this is a number 2 issue in this election outside of the economy, and we've heard her economic plans, and they are absolutely horrifying when you consider, just for example, as one of 20, taxing unrealized capital gains that would destroy the stock market. So I think things seem to be trending, Larry, in Donald Trump's direction at this point, because she's speaking now. When she speaks, things go south.
Well, Tammy Bruce, my love, Tammy Bruce, I'm glad you're here. Oh, I'm glad.
My pleasure.
Yes, somebody showed up. This is good. Tammy, I think, though, one angle to everything Joe said, yes, but one angle is that they're trying to cover up these numbers. These numbers have never seen the light of day before yesterday. Bill Maluga of Fox News broke this story from the letter given to Tony Gonzalez from ICE. Now, you know what? Again, we don't believe in coincidences. They tried to cover these numbers up. Now they can't.
Well, they did cover them up. They were successful, but this brings up 2 very frightening issues for the American people, which is, first of all, people in charge who we've hired to take care of us in the country have seen the damage their decisions have brought and their policy has brought. And their answer was not to say, oh, my God, we've been wrong. Oh, my God, what are we setting up the country for? Oh, my God, we better change course. No, the answer was hide it and pretend it's not happening, which means, and they made no other changes, which means it continued. So that's the moral framework of the nature of the decision-making of the people in the White House. And that is, of course, it's not going to be limited just, Larry, to the border. It's going to affect every single decision, every single aspect of what's going on. So the other question becomes, if they were willing to hide this and felt that that was the answer as a result of their own policy, what else don't we know? And that is always the concern, the nature of the relationship with Iran, the nature of what's going on with Ukraine. Where is the money? What else is happening around the country? Why is it? Why did they go right to Kamala Harris? Why are they still – they're not only hiding those numbers, they're hiding the real Kamala Harris. It is an effort of all energy going into gaslighting and lying to the American people when you would think it would take half the energy to simply do the right thing, unless the goal is, in fact, to wreak havoc on the country, to cause such damage that the American people retreat, that there is a terrorist attack, there is a nuclear exchange requiring, martial law, more government, more censorship, et cetera. So it's not just because they're distracted by television or they're dumb. That's a word that's used a lot to describe these people. These people are malevolent. They're hostile to the country. And when you look at these numbers, it goes beyond just being incompetent. These are deliberate decisions, and when you get the result, it's one thing to think, in a utopian way, oh, this is going to be fine. It's a global world. All people are wonderful, and then you get surprised. They are not surprised. We've had a history of this. They see their own numbers, and they decided that they would hide it so it could continue.
Yeah, the thing is, the Wall Street Journal, which is by and large pro-immigration, although not necessarily pro-illegal immigration, but they call it the Kamala Harris's reinvention tour. They're trying to make her into something that she's not. And she was the border czar, or the border czarina, however we want to put that. But the other thing I want to mention here, Joe, I'll come back to you. This is an economic and business story, because the criminals that are let loose in the country have steal from all the big box stores. $999, you could do it every day in California, right? There's no limit to the other cities and states. Big box stores are closing left and right because of all the stealing, all the theft. Mom and pop stores, they get shut down. Shootings inside their stores, tragic shootings of the people that own the stores, shootings or violence against the cops patrolling the stores on the streets. Then you have to total up all the money being spent on homelessness, on free food, on free health care. Then you're throwing kids out of classrooms because they wanted to make room for the illegal immigrants. So this is a very bad business story. It's going to bankrupt these sanctuary cities. It's going to bankrupt the whole country. I mean, look at what's happened in New York City. Putting aside Mayor Adams' first-class airplane seats from Turkey, leaving that aside for the moment. We may get to that later. But the fact is, this is a business and economic story as well as a criminal and an illegal and a borderless no sovereignty story, Joe. I mean, this is just lose, lose, lose across the board.
Larry, Tammy, multiple aspects to this story, as you just mentioned, Larry, including national security. Because remember all the terrorists that have come across this border. According to DHS, that number isn't in the hundreds. It's probably the thousands because of all the gotaways. You would think a skilled terrorist isn't going to allow himself to be apprehended. Then you look at, obviously, public safety, like you just mentioned, crime going up, stores being looted. These are all facts. These are all documented. Education, as well, as you just mentioned, you have folks coming in, kids coming into these classrooms. They don't speak a lick of English. They're not remotely on the education level they should be, and that brings down and drags down the entire class. And you mentioned New York City. Eric Adams said that this is going to cost, all right, taking care of illegals means feeding them, means housing them, $12 billion to this city over the next 4 years, which New York absolutely cannot afford. And what happens? Then you start to see cuts to sanitation, to education, to police forces. For those who are here legally, they feel less safe more than ever before. But you're right, this is an economic story. It is a business story because we can't endure this cost continually, not just in New York, but cities from Chicago, Minneapolis, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Atlanta. They're all feeling this, and it will collapse the system, Larry.
By the way, Tammy Bruce, I know you're very close to DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
Yeah, totally.
I went salsa dancing last night.
What is his? This is a guy who is in charge of the border, a no-show. This is a guy also who's in charge of the Secret Service, another no-show. Whatever happened to him? I haven't heard anything from him, not a single peep. And as I said, I know you talk to him regularly. Maybe you can tell us where he is.
Well, as an American, we've seen what happens to the Biden cabinet. It goes into the vortex. Is that it doesn't matter. You're in a chair there at that table, which never meets, and you just simply are not seen. It's like Pete Buttigieg. It's like nobody is doing their job. And I think in this particular case, you've got, it's a corporate culture in a way that the leadership, which is this number of people in the White House, we know their names essentially, the old Obama team, et cetera. But clearly, a cabinet is going to operate based on what's expected of them. And when it comes to that nameless anonymous team, nothing is expected from them. And all of this, including what Kamala is doing, which, by when she was talking to ICE, she went up to like a balcony, like she's Evita. And it's all theater. It's all theater. But it's also the result. The result is this a perfect example of passive aggressiveness. Ooh. That by doing nothing about everything, you are punching the country in the face every day. Yeah. And you see the results in the border. You see it with the economy. You saw it with Afghanistan. Incompetence combined with malevolence, with passive aggressiveness for a cabinet that has not made any kind of a public peep about not meeting with the president,
for a year.
Which means the government is not yet for a year. It's not like a few months, a year at least.
For a year, man.
It means that they're not operating on a governmental level. That is your first sign. And so what's happened to Mayorkas? Maybe he's on leave with Buttigieg. You just never know.
I forgot about Buttigieg. Well, it's easy to forget about Buttigieg. I got to take a break here. This is wonderful. Tammy Bruce, Fox News contributor. Her book is Fear Itself, Exposing the Left's Mind-Killing Agenda. Joe, what's yours? Progressively worse?
Today's Democrats ain't your daddy's donkeys.
There we go. See,
got to say what they right accent.
Joe is a Fox News contributor. There's a rumor we have Roger Stone waiting in the wings who may join us. I'm Kudlow. We'll be right back.
Larry Kudlow.